The action begins with an ordinary Donggang school, from which two students are coming from. One of them says his friend finished studying quickly and then just waited for classes to end. But the boys were distracted by an unusual noise of machinery. It was military equipment. There were students sitting in one of the SUVs talking amongst themselves. Those students who have completed the class have discussed it. The girls say the guys in the cars are cool, and they themselves say they are from the School of Heroes. The Heroes School logo was emblazoned on the cars. As they say, it all started without any foreshadowing. Suddenly, portals in the sky began to open and dragons began to fly out of them. According to scientific facts that were discovered later, there was an Earth-like world in outer space. But because of the catastrophe that happened there, the world collapsed and its debris flew to Earth and began to blend in with the environment. This phenomenon was called the merger. 17% of the Earth was lost, and the lost areas began to be called the dungeons. People did not want to just give up territories and fought for them. We are shown one of the monsters. It's a horned horror. It's one-horned. The stronger the monster, the more horns it has. This monster was attempted to be attacked by one of the soldiers in the dungeon grounds. Except that in addition to destruction, they also brought their own rules, and thus humans and monsters could now fight on equal terms. The soldier dumbfounds the monster by testing his strength. Everyone has these skills now, just all different. People with such abilities were able to control their power better through training. Such people organized elite troops to return the dungeon zone to the people, and they became known as hunters. Now the age of dungeons and hunters is upon us. Even during the lifetime of one generation, educational schools were organized, where future hunters were trained. Those two students, just discussing it, they say that this school is where hunters take the dungeon exam. Only the students were distracted by the admiring cries of the girls admiring the apprentice of this school. They admired a half-elf named Che Diav. He is 17 years old and has great potential. His father is a hunter, and his mother is an elf. One of the guys resents the fact that he's pulling all the girls' attention, and his friend says he has a temper. There was another student walking behind them, and his name is Cha Ryung. The guy with glasses says that Lee Yun-jin called him out at karaoke. A guy walks past them and says he's not going to karaoke because he has some business to attend to. The guy with the temper wanted to call him out, only Cha Ryung punched him in the side and just walked away. The student with glasses says to think first before talking to Cha Ryung because he has a reputation. We are shown a flashback where Cha Ryung is taking care of his father in the hospital. He has huge medical bills. He was walking down the street further, but he got a message on his phone that he had to come to work. An order had come in. Cha Ryung was still walking past the convoy, and Che Diao paid attention to him, except it looked like he was imagining it. Meanwhile, he arrives at an abandoned subway station. He is met by Im Jae-hwan. He is 37 years old and is a broker. No sooner does the protagonist say hello than the man with white skin starts yelling at Im Jae-hwan. He calls Cha Ryung a minnow and says he wants a good opponent. Cha Ryung recognizes the man behind this uncle. It's Lee Pil Gyu. He had 81 raids in the dungeon. He is 34 years old and a former silver rank hunter currently working for this uncle. Except behind the insults, we're told that Cha Ryun, he's 17 years old and he's a dungeon smuggler with 371 raids. In between, we are told that the hunters have to pay taxes on the treasure they took from the dungeon and the smugglers are taking it out for nothing. Cha Ryung, meanwhile, was just warming up for the fight. It turns out that Lee Pil Gyu was fired for beating up his co-worker who was constantly in his way. Cha Ryung jokingly says that Lee Pil Gyu got rid of the trash. He smiled and even laughed a little about this situation while he was decided to be hit by Lee Pil Gyu. Except that Cha Ryung had noticed that Lee Pil Gyu was attacking at random. The protagonist replies to him that he will deliver a light strike, except this stunned Lee Pil Gyu. Then he rips off his shirt and Im Jae-hwan remarks, "It looks like Lee Pil Gyu was tank." In between, they talk about how hunters have their own classes, and Lee Pil Gyu is a tank. This is the class with the highest defense. He is not afraid of bullets. Lee Pil Gyu had built up his muscles, increased his attack, and also made his skin steely. And after that, he hit the floor. Cha Ryung, on the other hand, just jumped up to avoid the blow. That uncle was picked up by Im Ji-hwan, who asked if he was okay. But at the same time, Im Ji-hwan remained unhappy that Lee Pil-gyu trashed their workspace. Cha Ryung just dodges the punches, except Im Ji-hwan tells him to finish quickly or he'll cut his salary. The protagonist decides to deal with him quickly. He takes a steel pipe and remembers the weakness of all tanks. If you hit one point, his defenses will collapse. Everyone used to think that the tanks were invincible, except that Cha Ryung only throws one punch. After this blow, Lee Pil-gyu fell down without strength. The protagonist said that he had broken his shield for nothing. Lee Pil-gyu's technique reminded him of his father, who is also a tank. We are transported back to the childhood of Chae Ryong, who recalled that his father was the best hunter ever. His father's name was Yu Song, and he was from the first generation of heroes who became the first hunters. Those times were the most difficult for the first hunters. They didn't know monsters and who where dwells. They didn't know how to fight monsters, what they were called, what class they were. The hunters of that time had no good weapons. They had to fight at random. But somehow they managed to defeat the monsters. They gained experience to give to the next generations. Yu Song became the first hunter who was able to defeat the dragon. He was given the nickname Dragon Killer. This moment went down in history. Only Yu Song himself was feeling ill. He was sick. The cause of his illness was poison. At that point, it was impossible to cure. In all this time, his physical condition had reached its limit, and the colleagues he was protecting. They took advantage of his illness and took credit for his war record. As time went on and he was tormented by illness and mental trauma, it was no longer possible to recognize that first hero in him. Meanwhile, Cha Ryung is already done with Lee Pil-gyu. He said that if Lee Pil-gyu brags about beating his colleague, then he is low level. Cha Ryung said that there are only 2 true cases of hunters resigning: if the hunter has not returned from a raid, and if the hunter is in poor physical condition. Meanwhile, Im Jae-hwan negotiated a payment of twice as much for insulting them and also for destroying the workroom. Afterward, the guys were resting after the fight, and Im Jae-hwan said that whether Cha Ryung had heard of Heavenly Wasp. The Sky Wasp is a monster that is known as the most dangerous monster in the entire world, and their territory is recognized as the most dangerous. Besides the board, that uncle also told of a raid in that area, supported by the military and 7 white-ranked hunters. Their goal was to destroy the wasps, but it didn't work out. But they did manage to hunt down the mother wasps. One of these 7 hunters appropriated the Royal Oz jelly that they feed the womb with and smuggled it out of the dungeon. Im Jae-hwan says that he has seen it several times and has heard that the man who eats this jelly will be able to heal all his wounds. Meanwhile, all the nooks and crannies and passageways that lead to the dungeons must be controlled. Only the smugglers have their own passageways. Im Jae-hwan opens the passage and tells Cha Ryung to be careful, except Cha Ryung hesitates. Im Jae-hwan pulls him aside and asks him, "A potion that can revive a dead person. Do you have a problem with those words?" The protagonist says that it's only an approximation, but if it can save his father, he'll get it. Cha Ryung opens the gate and walks out into a huge dungeon like another world. There are only 2 large dungeons, the first that merged with the island and the second that merged with the jungle. Well, this dungeon is one of the easiest. It merged with the outskirts of Seoul. Here is a low level of danger. District Old Boram. Im Jae-hwan recalls Cha Ryung's assignment to check out the supposed scene and bring back the goods of the smuggler who was injured by the sky wasps. Cha Ryung goes downstairs and notices that the forest is filled with an odor that other monsters will flock to. The protagonist was right. There were monsters pulling down on this place that shouldn't be here. Hiding between the trees was Jin Saram, who was in Hero High School her first year. She thought the midterms wouldn't be difficult, but she didn't expect to see that monster that shouldn't be in this place. She had a simple task. She needed to collect the coins that were hidden around the dungeon. This is a practice exam where the low-level dungeon is inhabited by weak monsters that don't have much strength or intelligence. Old Borame. They call this place the beginner's hunting ground, except that she felt a glance of... It was that huge monster. It's still unknown who it was. It decided to attack her, but she dodged. Even in such a difficult position, she decided to attack him back. It was Titanium Monkey. It has 3 danger stars and 4 arms. She shot 3 arrows at him, except she didn't count. Such arrows are useless against the Titan Monkey. She was only walking away from him, but he was chasing after her, Jin Se-rom trying to find his weak spot. Jin Se-rom decides to use his magic to defeat Titan Monkey and puts his maximum energy into it. She is a mage archer hero and is able to energize any arrow. This arrow she charged to blast. There was a loud explosion that should have disarmed Titan Monkey, but it would be enough to destroy the Titan Monkey if he hit it. He dodged it. Titanium Monkey jumped down and started to catch up with Jin Se-rom, and when she almost caught up with her, the monkey was bombarded by the blow that Cha-ryong threw at it. The protagonist hit the chin. Though he wanted to hit the forehead, he realized it wasn't enough for her. Cha-ryong took out the stunning torch from his bag and attacked the monkey. At that, he shouted, "Chi Se-rom, she needs to close her eyes." Cha-ryong aimed his stun torch at Monkey when Monkey wanted to hit him. A very bright flash, Cha-ryong also closed his eyes to avoid going blind. Stun torch is made from the scales of deep-sea fish and is currently illegal because many people have lost their eyesight because of it. Cha-ryong tells Ji Se-rom that he helped her, and then everyone is responsible for themselves from there. Just as she ran after him, he stopped and knocked her to the ground. She says she guesses he's a smuggler, but she also wants to thank him for saving her and hire him. Cha-ryong says he doesn't care what rich kids do. He doesn't want Ji Se-rom by his side. However, she offers the Blood of Enkill artifact and says it's an advance. If Cha-ryong helps her pass the exam, she'll pay the rest. Cha-ryong is surprised that she doesn't want to take him prisoner, however. He said to leave because Titan Monkey. It doesn't have that long of a stun torch effect on it, so it attacked them first. In midair, Cha-ryong gave his spear to Chi Se-rom and told her to put the same magic as the arrowhead. She wanted to run away, but she put her remaining magic into the spear tip, to which Cha-ryong said it was enough. Cha-ryong used his charged spear with magic. He struck the Titan Monkey. From such a blow, her teeth cracked, her chin burned, and Cha-ryong's glasses broke. He says to himself that in a battle with a monster, it is not strength that matters, but sensation and ability that will help deliver the decisive blow that all students should have. We are transported back in time to the silver class past, to the school. More little Chi Se-rom, playing with her friends. Her friends envied her because she had everything she wanted. The company that ranks 4th in business circles is Chinsen Group. The heir to this company married an elfess, a member of a tribe from another world. Their marriage is where Chi Se-rom was born, and she really wanted to become a hunter. Only she'd been told she couldn't make it. She had too little elven blood in her. Her father's name is Jin Seong-gyu, and he says he supports her in this endeavor. It's her path. She tries really hard and doesn't just give up. It shows her character. Chi Se-rom has had it all since she was a kid. Wealth, fame, genes, but that can make her a laughingstock in no time. She can't stand to be treated like this for so long. Meanwhile, Titan Monkey fell to the ground. Finally, the Titan Monkey was defeated. Cha-ryong called out to Chi Se-rom. Ji Se-rom says that can't happen since they're about the same age. Cha-ryong only now realized that his glasses were broken. Im Jae-hwan told the main character that the glasses are very expensive. They have 4 kinds of magic on them, and they hide the identity. Ji Se-rom asks Cha-ryong if he's at their school, to which he replies that it's nonsense and asks for an advance. He's picked up the advance, and Ji Se-rom offers to help him get into the School of Heroes, except he responds with a curt refusal. Cha-ryong tells her that he's self-taught, and to prove it, he throws his learner's card in her face. In response, he asked her to show his ticket, and took it away so she wouldn't change her mind about asking for help. Beyond that, he asks her to come closer. Instead of a contract, he offers to make a proof of accomplice, because if anything, she will receive the same punishment as the smuggler. They got a cute picture of them with Titanium Monkey in the background. Cha-ryong finds out what needs to be done, and Ji Se-rom says to collect the coins that are hidden in different corners of the exemplary field in 6 hours. She also needs to find the box with the coin pattern to confirm her identity. She has already found 1 coin, and she needs to find a second one to pass the exam. The second coin is in the Eugene Mall, and Cha-ryong realizes that this is the same place where the Heavenly Wasp dwelled. Except he tells her he wants the royal jelly, not the sky wasp herself. The smell of this jelly attracts other monsters, and Chase-Rom sets a large sum of money for this coin. Char-Young agrees. He said he would get that coin safely and immediately ran to the mall, and Chise-Rom is surprised how fast he is. Chise-Rom asks the protagonist along the way where he is and who he learned it from, but he says he didn't do it all himself, but he was taught some things. Except when he swung over a fallen tree, he said, "Get ready. It was 2 cluster raptors. He has 2 danger stars. He's the first to rush in and target his weak spot. The protagonist pokes the cluster raptor's weak spot and it goes down. Chae-Ryong watched his father's training as a child and learned the needle technique. The technique mobilizes everything you have, and this force should be directed at one weak point of the enemy. In all this time, he has mastered this technique to perfection, and Chae-Ryong has a total of 3 of them. Chise-Rom noticed an oddity. Usually class theraptors are in a group of 5 individuals, but here there were only 2. Chae-Ryong says they need to rest a bit and move on. There will be plenty of monsters here soon. Chise-Rom asks if the protagonist received any training as a child, to which he replies that he had been spying on one man's training. She was shocked by this, spied the training and learned the technique. The elf says that Char-Young annoys her. However, she gives him an ampule of endurance, which is very expensive. She says he better drink it now because they need the strength, but Chae-Ryong decides to save it for later. He wants to sell it. Chise-Rom was not happy about this after all. She gave it to him so he would have the strength to fight, and he just decides to sell it. She's picked up on the fact that Char-Young is very strange. She doesn't understand his motivation. To which Char-Young also parries, he doesn't understand her. She's very strange. Finally, they reach their destination, where Char-Ryong reminds them of their goals. They need to safely get what everyone needs out of them and get out of here. Char-Ryong said that she would follow his instructions without fail so they could survive, and they entered the mall. They were both shocked by what they saw. Multiple monster bodies, blood, both of them seeing such a thing for the first time. In the middle of all the bodies, there is only one monster sitting in the middle. Chise-Rom swept up the fact that the monster's bodies are high level, which means he is stronger. This monster is called the chopping rib. Its danger level is about 3 stars. Char-Ryong decides to attack first using the needle technique, but chopping rib attacks him back and grabs his spear. The monster throws him over, and Char-Ryong releases his weapon. Unarmed, he decides to stab him right in the eye. The monster could not withstand such a blow and was defeated. Char-Ryong takes back his weapon and says he was left alive on purpose. When life threatened, the chopping rib emits a terrible scream, alerting other monsters. No sooner had they realized who could have done it than the hunter who had done it appeared. Hunter says there were more monsters than he thought, and once he dealt with them, he decided to rest. He also notes that they are too small for smugglers. Other than that, he goes downstairs and asks if Chise-Rom is in hero school. She responds positively, but doesn't understand why it's necessary. Hunter, in turn, says he doesn't know what their alliance is, but he's sorry. They'll have to die together. Only Char-Ryong says it's not just a hunter. It's a villain who wants the royal jelly. The villain replies that he's lucky and he doesn't care about the consequences. He overheard one of his co-workers wanting to steal that jelly. He realizes that if that smuggler did hide jelly, it could be here. The villain attacked the smuggler who was carrying this jelly. It wasn't Heavenly Wasp. In front of Char-Ryong stood a true hunter who was different from the rest of the rabble he had met before. The protagonist tells Chise-Rom to look for the coin, and in the meantime, he'll distract him. Only the hunter attacked first while Char-Ryong was talking to Chise-Rom. The villain said they had a better chance of surviving together, so it was a waste for her to leave. Chae-Ryong said that Hunter is talking nonsense and will find out who has a better chance. He miscalculated the trajectory of his opponent's sword, much to the hunter's surprise. The protagonist gave it a good stab, except he didn't take into account. The hunter used his own equipment. His name is Yang Do-kyung, and he has a gold rank. Meanwhile, Im Jae-hwan takes a bite of noodles and offers them to Uncle. Im Jae-hwan suggests that Uncle sit down because Lee Pil-gyu won't wake up for a while yet. Uncle says that Lee Pil-gyu lost because he bragged a lot, and he also heard that the hunters are fighting among themselves. Im Jae-hwan agrees with this. The higher the level, the further things can go. Anything can happen inside the dungeons, and no one forbids them. You could say you lost to a monster. In Lee Pil-gyu's case, he was not a high-level hunter to have the rights to beat up his colleague. For hunters, it's their gear, half of their powers, which improves them. Yang Do-kyung rushed forward again. He was very fast. Cha Ryong traveled about 20 meters before he stopped from his kick, and even after a second, Yang Do-kyung was already beside him. Hunter teases him, asks him what he can do. Let him show it. Yang Do-kyung wields a shadow jacket. It provides protection and support for physical strength at the expense of the user's blood, and he fought in a style they call berserk. Cha Ryong tried to look for weaknesses, but in between attacks, he took off his jacket. This was his favorite outfit. Cha Ryong chides the hunter that if he didn't have armor, then he would lose then. By doing so, he angered him. His opponent was in a hurry, but Cha Ryong decided to use a second technique. He also studied it by watching his father practice. The technique his father used was called the ripple. He uses his opponent's power against himself by reflecting it back. Cha Ryong would never have thought that this was a technique he would use against a human. He suggests that he surrender because from now on he won't beat him. Yang Do-kyung only responds with insults and picks up the dagger. With this dagger, he pierces his armor, saying that he will destroy Cha Ryong. Meanwhile, Chi Se-rom was able to find the cube where she confirmed her identity. She figured Cha Ryong wouldn't fight without an escape plan, and if she went back, nothing would change. Yang Do-kyung's backstory is that everything came easy to him. He was a genius and very capable. His successes were recognized by absolutely everyone. Even his parents were proud of him. But there was one thing that annoyed him. He didn't get accepted into Hero High School. He realized that at that school they only looked at money, not ability. It felt like it wasn't his level, yet everyone was still proud of him. But when he became a hunter, he wasn't prepared for this. So another hunter came to his aid and dealt with the monster. He wasn't a genius or a chosen one. He was an ordinary man. Yang Do-kyung allowing armor to devour the blood that flows to his heart is the payment for destroying Cha Ryong. After that, he decided to continue attacking the protagonist. Cha Ryong realized that he was in a hurry again, and his speed wasn't that fast. He blocked his blow, though he was almost out of strength himself. To replenish his strength, he decides to use the stamina ampule and restore his strength. Yang Do-kyung asked why Cha Ryong was smuggling, but he didn't answer him. The protagonist drank the ampule and regained his strength and began to feel better. Cha Ryong decides to take the stamina. Hunter won't last long. He doesn't have enough blood. Only he catches up with him again, and the protagonist fails to fool him. At that moment, the magic arrow that Chi Se-rom had let fly into Yang Do-kyung. She herself didn't expect such a result from the explosion, as she has little energy. Cha Ryong, on the other hand, is impressed that Chi Se-rom didn't listen to him. Yang Do-kyung revealed his weak spot. He was damaged by the explosion. Cha Ryong lands a devastating blow to him. The needles move. Finally, the battle is over and he's alive, but Cha Ryong says not to worry about him. Cha Ryong repaid her debt for Titan Monkey, but he counted the two debts as one. In doing so, he made the girl very angry. Can't he just say thank you? The heroes go downstairs where they smell a sweet odor. The same smuggler stayed here forever. Cha Ryong isn't surprised by this state of affairs and picks up the briefcase. He decides to check what's inside the case, and upon opening it, they smell a very acrid odor. This design exuded a sweetish fragrance that makes you forget all thoughts. Cha Ryong commands that they need to get out of here before someone else arrives. They went up to the first floor of the mall and saw that Yang Do-kyung was missing. He yells at them that they will answer for what they did to him. Yang Do-kyung disappeared, was happy to survive and leave this place, only he was not happy for long. Already another titanium monkey had found him first, and now he couldn't escape. The heroes have seen it all and decide not to go that way. They will go another way. By evening, they made it out to safety, where they decided to get acquainted. They were able to complete their business safely, and there was a lot to do. He tells her to mind her privacy and a wire transfer if she wants to meet again. But that's not what she says. She suggests we meet again. Im Jae-hwan was already waiting for Cha Ryong. He noticed that he had to sweat a lot. If you sell that thing, then the hype will be raised. You could buy a couple dozen buildings with that money. Im Jae-hwan praised Cha Ryong and said he would wire him the money tomorrow. Cha Ryong asks to take what was in the briefcase, except for this thing. Smugglers have their own rules, and they can take anything that doesn't pertain to the order. This thing turns out to be the royal jelly after all, and it was bought by some father who wants his kid to eat it. Cha Ryung said goodbye to Im Jae-hwan and wondered what Ji Se-rom had said. She said that it would be possible to enter Hero High School in the winter and Cha Ryung would do well. The girl asks to study with her at the Hero High School. He has a lot of potential. Meanwhile, more than one hunter can't go through the dungeon alone. No matter what skills a hunter has, he won't be able to fight a crowd of monsters alone. That's why Hunter needs a team that will always help him. Ji Se-rom says there are already 2 groupies in her class. They are led by 2 students who are in the top 3. Ji Se-rom wants to get on the team, and people are recruited from groupies. The leader of one of the teams dislikes Ji Se-rom, but she doesn't show it. Ji Se-rom wants to hire Cha Ryung to her team because her 2nd and 3rd year won't be able to last without her. Cha Ryung, of course, promised to think about it. Ji Se-rom hopes Cha Ryung will call her. Meanwhile, she had already made it out to the dungeon barrier. Teacher Kang Jong-guk was waiting for her here. He is the class teacher of Class 1, 1B, and is a close combat instructor. He knows that there are monsters in that area that shouldn't be there, but she still passed the exam. But their dialogue was interrupted by Titanium Monkey, which has a 4-star danger rating. The teacher said to stand behind him and he could deal with her himself. The teachers at the School of Heroes are all ex-hunters. They usually graduated from the same school. Kang Jong-guk was nicknamed Tyranny Fighter. He was the so-called ranker, the strongest hunter of the strongest. He easily dealt with Titan Monkey, and other than that, he never paid attention to other people's opinions and became the strongest. After the battle, they headed to the Hero High School Basic Skills Training Camp. At camp, 2 students were talking about how if someone asked for help, the exam would have to be retaken. Kang Jong-guk had instructed her to wait for the others to return, to check if everything was in place, and to change into her school uniform. Ji Se-rom agreed to his instructions and decided to go to the tent, but she was called out. It was that elf. She says she was very worried about her, though that's a lie. Ji Se-rom says she can't have Anisha worrying about her, though she says she's hurt to hear it. 6 years ago, Zeke Esserm, her uncle, helped her learn a new spell. Ji Se-rom, at age 11, tried very hard to develop her skills, but she wasn't doing well. Anisha Esserm, on the other hand, has always done better. Her magic control abilities higher than pureblood elves. Back then, he told her they'd be compared forever because they were cousins. Anisha still continues to be bullied, as for some reason no one wants to take Ji Se-rom in the team. She might as well go with her on the same team, only Anisha doesn't want to. They're both archers and both ranged fighters, so they can't be on the same team. Anisha says if she didn't pass, it's okay. There will be a retake. Only Ji Se-rom passed the exam. Even here, Anisha mocks her and tells her that she doesn't need to try hard. She'll get her father's company anyway. Cha Ryung's father is lying in Seoul Seongyu Hospital. Yu Seong had a sudden stroke. This is the only case in the whole world. There is practically no such thing. With dragon poisoning, no one survived or recovered. With modern technology, his father can only live on painkillers. There is a remedy that will help create an antidote. It's the milk of a monster called Heavenly Tiger. It has 5 danger stars. He knows it's a rare commodity, but money isn't the problem. There are rumors among hunters about a potion, even a small dose of which can increase muscular strength and resistance power. It, too, uses Heavenly Tiger milk, which used to be very cheap, but that has changed now. Now entrepreneurs and hunters are buying up this milk because it can be used to make potions. Cha Ryung isn't happy about it, but he recognized the underlying problem. Father needs a large dose of this milk, and 10 or more potions can be made from it. It was a difficult conversation that lasted well into the evening. Cha Ryung's phone was called by Ji Se-rom, who reminded her of the proposal. He agrees but asks about the conditions. Does her company have such a potion? Ji Se-rom will be able to get this potion, especially since it doesn't need much. They decide to meet on Sunday, and Ji Se-rom needs to start studying for the exams. On Sunday, Cha Ryung arrives at the Chinsung Group's Defense Industry Research Institute. He is met by Ji Se-rom, who finds out how he is feeling. She says it's important because they will be measuring his abilities. It turns out that each hunter has a definition of their powers. 5 stats must be sea level. Then 1 can become a hunter. If, however, 3 out of 5 indicators have reached rank B, you can apply to the hero school. Cha Ryung realized that he had to go through some sort of physical examination. Only as a teenager it was more difficult. How much more difficult? Because it's usually done when you're a kid. Much more difficult, it's usually rare. Geo Krun Pro was put up against Cha Ryung, and he's acting like a monster. He's wondering what his stats are on ability himself. Watching his battle is Jong Yo Min. She is a former hunter and works there as a golem summoner. To pick up stats, hunters are given special devices that measure the limit of a person's abilities. Jong Yo Min starts practicing, and she's also surprised that Cha Ryung goes to a regular school. He couldn't get into hero school because he failed the exam, though here she hesitates. Cha Ryung hadn't even reached his limit. It was easy enough for him. It's the first time she's encountered such a case, and she wants to run the golem at full power, except that Zeke Eserm, who is the director of research, has come in and he is not happy that the lab is being used without authorization. Ji Se-rom apologized because she asked Jong Yo-min, except Zeke has always been cold to her. Zeke noticed that Cha Ryung was now on the field. Jong Yo-min was trying to explain the situation and he agreed. To measure his stats, he himself, in person, fights him. Cha Ryung didn't feel that he could beat him, but he realized that he had a chance. Zeke Esermi, ranked 7th in the South Korean rankings, and he's also a white hunter. Cha Ryung's strategy was simple. He hit with a light punch and used hitches between attacks. Zeke's point is that Cha Ryung is inattentive, and if one more time he misses a punch, he'll send him home. Cha Ryung changes tactics then, and he decides to keep his distance from his opponent. Except that doesn't save him. He has flaws. He has no basic knowledge, much to Zeke and Jong Yo-min's surprise. Even after that, Cha Ryung doesn't give up and offers to fight again. Cha Ryung was really angry that Zeke was allowing himself to be bullied and that he hadn't even thrown a punch. In childhood, the protagonist was not taught by anyone. He learned everything by himself. This was the first time Cha Ryung had met a real hunter other than his father. He attacks first, but Zeke just dodges it. Zeke recognizes that if Cha Ryung lands, he won't be able to dodge his attack anymore. Except the goal was not to get into Zeke, but to push his skills to the limit of possible evaluation. Ji Se-rom runs in, who was worried about Cha Ryung, except he healed him. Zeke leaves, thinking that he didn't expect to find his son here. Because of this battle, evening came and Zeke was a little late. He gets picked up by a buddy who is unhappy that Zeke's tardiness is causing him to be blamed. He explained to him what was wrong, except his buddy noticed the scratch on Zeke's cheek. Buddy's name is Kang Gong-ho. He's the leader of NYX, Korea's first dungeon clearing squad. He has a ranking of 19. Zeke notices that Kang Gong-ho and Cha Ryung are of the same level. Their powers are on par. Cha Ryung has just come to his senses. He's surprised that he has no wounds and nothing hurts. Ji Se-rom came to see him and asked him if he thought he could beat Zeke. No one has ever been able to do that. Cha Ryung had picked up on the fact that Zeke, though cold to Ji Se-rom, still cared for her. Cha Ryung's stats are higher than Ji Se-rom's. They excel in everything except magic. She thought his stats were even higher than someone in one of the groups. However, Cha Ryung said he has an acquaintance who has even higher numbers. It was his father, who is now in the hospital. Before leaving, Zeke allowed Cha Ryung to visit the production department, where he could pick out his own gear at his expense. Every hunter wants good equipment items. They can fill in their weaknesses, making them stronger. Equipment items should be of high quality and should be changed as rank increases. Before entering the school, Cha Ryung needs to get the right equipment because that's the rules. Investors are interested in apprentices who will become rankers in the future and work for them, fulfilling private orders. The boys headed to the production department. Research is very big that they even have their own blacksmith shop. Before the sweep, there was a dungeon here, and Cha Ryung noticed a stranger's gaze on him. Cha Ryung already wanted to start fighting, but Ji Se-rom stopped him. It's the head of the forge in the production department. He's not human. His name is Arjus Thunderhammer. He is a senior titan, and he is a citizen of the Republic of Korea. Arjus was personally tasked by Zeke to make weapons for Cha Ryung. But Arjus won't just make weapons. He demands to do what his tribe did. He wants to see what Cha Ryung is capable of. Cha Ryung decided to demonstrate his technique called Needle. Only Argus was confused by something else. He asked where he got the weapon from. In the past, Argus has had a danger level of 7 stars, and he still hasn't gotten an answer to his question. This weapon was made by Argus, and he doesn't know how Chae-ryong got it. Only Cha-ryong wasn't going to say where he got this weapon from, and Argus attacked him. Cha-ryong realized that Argus was like a stone, and he had one last flow technique left. He was certainly able to fend off his blow, but the monster took it with his mechanical arm. But at that moment, he was saved by Chi Se-rom, who explained that he, having citizenship, had no right to attack a person. Argus wasn't just dissatisfied with that. He had the day off today and wanted to get some sleep. Beyond that, Argus recognized that Cha-ryong had a right to the weapon and would reward him. Argus works for humans for a reason. He was defeated by one hunter and defeated by Yu Sung. It happened 30 years ago, and it was the one Cha-ryong recalled. In total, there are no more than 10 Elder Titans living on Earth. They have good stats, but their real strength is creating better weapons and gear. 30 years ago, there was an operation to capture AniRyze, and Colossus stood in their way. Colossus B is Argus's automatic puppet, and his danger level is about 4 stars. No matter how hard the hunters tried, Colossus was very difficult to defeat, except Yu Seong came to help. He was still a volunteer back then. Until now, Yu Sung was an unknown hunter, and his debut was here. He spent more time training and saving others, but from that point on he was noticed. His strength Colossus could not overpower. He was chopped in 2. Argus was then surprised that those hunters died fighting the Colossus, and Yu Song was able to deal with it in 2 strikes. That's when he also found out who Yu Seong was. The two got into a fight where Yu Sung showed off his move called Flow. Argus recognized that Yu Song was the strongest of all the hunters, but he didn't give up. And further, he learned of Yu Song's new technique, the Ripple, redirecting his strike against himself. At that moment, the monster named Argus. His life became Cha-ryong's father's. Yu Song's weapon was broken after the battle, and Argus was banished, and he was obliged to work for the humans now. That pole was the hilt from the main weapon, but Yu Song needed it as soon as possible. Because of that, only the hilt was left. Argus asks to give up that pole. He will make a weapon no longer for his father, but for Cha-ryong. He promises to get it done as soon as possible, but he doesn't know how long it will take. As the day came to an end, Ji Se-rom said that Cha-ryong's father was a very famous and important man. Ji Se-rom decided to read up on the internet, and she now suspects that Cha-ryong's father is Yu Sung. The action continues in the teacher's lounge of the dungeon-clearing faculty. This girl's name is Cho Se-ah. She is the class teacher of Class 1. 2, she is 27 years old, and she is a magic tutor. Kang Jong-guk came to her, still wanting to check his students' results. Currently, there are only 3 students in the freshman class who have been called geniuses. The first one is Chae Diav. He has good swordsman skills and magical powers. The second student is Anisha Ezerm. She has very strong magical skills. The third apprentice, on the other hand, is Tyr Belkason. He has incorporated the best skills of dwarf and human. Kang Jong-guk isn't surprised by the results. Tyr Belkason isn't particularly communicative, but he says singles always has an advantage. 3 days later, Tyr Belkason was walking down the street and accidentally hit on one of the guys on the street. He's really big, so he spilled that kid's soda. Tyr Belkason is a very polite and humble man. He apologized to the guy. He said he didn't mean to do it. His mom always taught it. Her name is Seok Yu Bin. She is a hunter who worked in Europe. It turned out that although Tyr Belkason is capable and he was able to get in, he doesn't know much Korean. Now he decided to go to the computer club to play and eat. Only he's having some problems. He can't register there. Chae-ryong volunteered to help him deal with it. He explained to him how to register, and besides that, a couple other computer club tricks. Cha-ryong got up early because he wanted to meet Se-rom, but she overslept. He also speculates about the items he took on the last outing. He can't sell them yet. The only thing he can sell is the Blood of Enkill artifact. Enkill is a reptilian titan who is very difficult to defeat. It is currently illegal to hunt Enkill. Such an artifact has increased in value a great deal. He was interrupted from his musings by Tyr Belkason, who asked if he wanted to play with him. There are spaces between Seoul and the dungeons, the so-called ruins. Walls were built in the ruins, and for the past 20 years, monsters have not been able to overcome it. Outside the gates, two men ride out in vehicles. They are transporting a small monster. One of those people's name is Cho Yun-ah. She is 31 years old. She is a former gold-ranked hunter, quit after damaging her eye. Sung Chan-woo is sitting behind the wheel. He is a former bronze-ranked hunter. He is 22 years old. The car was hit good by something. They thought that the monster might have gotten out of the back stack, but that's impossible. Cho Yun-ah went out to check what it was, and Sung Chan-woo has to call and say they have a stop to check. He was confident in her, and when she opened the door, Sung Chan-woo praised her, only it wasn't Cho Yun-ah. Another girl got into the cab of the truck and said that she was too weak for a civil servant, Cho Yun-ah. She ordered him to drive on if he wanted to live. Meanwhile, Tir Belkacem and Cha Ryun have won a couple of rounds and decided to take a bite. Their lunch break was interrupted by a loud sound like an explosion. Next to the computer building, the very truck that was carrying the monsters crashed into the building. That girl looked up at it and reported back to her superiors. She would be able to get away unnoticed. Horned, terror-type monsters started coming out of the truck. The number of horns determines their level of danger. The girl said whoever bet on 50 people, she would bet too. They can deal with 100 before the hunters arrive. Only Cha Ryung wasn't okay with that. He started saving people. No sooner had he dealt with one, another appeared, and he had 2 horns. On average, the horned terror lives 5, 6 years, but about 8% can grow a second rag, and their danger level is 3 stars. From the road sign, Cha Ryung made himself a weapon similar to his pole. Except that the monster didn't want to fight, it jumped over and attacked ordinary passers-by. But the passerby is saved by Tir Belkacem, who stopped his shot. The monster needed to be dealt with, and Cha Ryung used his technique, the needle. Though he was done, the boys were distracted by something else. It was already a real explosion where the container was. The situation was much worse, with hunters needing more time. But Tir Belkacem was distracted by Cha Ryung, who guessed he was Tank, and he told him to use his provocation cry. Cha Ryung was going to fight alone anyway, and this way it would be easier to gather all the monsters. In addition, Tir Belkacem has also performed well in games, which means that they will definitely work together. He drew the attention of all the monsters to himself. The girl who was on the roof was very surprised by this. All the horned terror monsters from the neighborhood have gathered. Senior among them in rank ordered an attack on Tir Belkacem. Tank is able to withstand large attacks, so he'll be calm. At that time, Cha Ryung saw that the monsters were collecting the corpses of people into that truck. 2 two-horns attacked Cha Ryung, but they had tactics. Cha Ryung took on the 2 strong ones, and Tir Belkacem took on the 4 weak ones. The following problem has come to light. The road sign is not suitable for battle. It can't withstand Cha Ryung's strength. Terrible conditions where a minute mistake could cost a life, he used it to climb 1 more rung. The 4th technique that was mastered was Zeke's, and it's called the downpour. He was saved from the 2nd by Tir Belkacem, who had already dealt with his opponents. At this time, they were being filmed on their cell phones by 2 students. His name is Cho Dong-yoon. He's 23 years old and the leader of a dungeon research circle. The other one's name is Kim Jang-hyun. He's also 23 years old and a member of the dungeon research circle. Judging from the number of monsters and stars, not below gold rank, perhaps they are studying in the hero school. Jo Dong-yoon asks Kim Jang-hyun to edit the video and put it on the internet. If they put it out first, it will gain big views, unlike the Ultra Manhwa recap channel, which is not watched. Tir Belkacem lifted Cha Ryung. He's not feeling well. Tank said that Cha Ryung was great. He single-handedly dealt with 2 two-horns. That's worth a lot. Cha Ryung says it's nothing. Tir Belkacem himself has taken down 9 monsters and still finished off the last one. He had low-level monsters, something even a normal person with a weapon could handle. They got into a conversation about school. Tir Belkacem doesn't know yet that he's a 3rd-round pick. No sooner had Cha Ryung wondered if he would be able to transfer to their school than he saw the monster. The monster was standing on the container and didn't want to attack. Cha Ryung guessed that it wasn't the monster, but the container. But this monster was dragged inside the container by someone. Horned horrors were tribal-type monsters. The two-horned individuals were considered the heads. When several tribes united, they became stronger and multiplied faster. At one point, this order was disrupted by a mutant with 3 horns. It was a horned terror Rex. His danger level was already 5 stars. He immediately attacked the boys and they split up. Rex is very fast, and to defend himself, Cha Ryung used the flow technique. The road sign broke, and Cha Ryung himself was unable to save himself with this technique. That's when Belkacem came to the rescue. He wanted to knock him over. Only it was Rex who knocked him over. He was much stronger than he was. Currently, no one knows exactly what kind of person Yu Seong was, but who could say for sure what exactly he left behind? 11 years ago, Yu Seong made a statement that shocked the world. Seo Ram searches for information and can't believe that Yu Seong was called False Dragon Killer. He recognized all of his accomplishments as fake, all 43 accomplishments. The documents did not indicate that Cha Ryung was his own son. Cha Ryung still couldn't understand what was happening to his body. But one thing was clear. It still kept moving. He used a new technique on him, destroying rain. But his power was suddenly gone. That's the last thing we need. Belkacem tries to bum rush Rex with a series of wild strikes but only just misses. That was enough time for Cha Ryung to give him a decisive blow. After that, other hunters came to the rescue. It didn't take an hour for this news to shake the whole of Korea, but along with it, the two heroes had a huge impact on the whole world. As a child, Cha Ryung was cared for by his father. He was not cold to him. When Cha Ryung grows up, he wants to be like his father. But his father always says he can't be like him. It was a memory that came to him in a dream. Zeke Ezerm came to see him and peeled his fruit. Zeke Ezerm personally knew Cha Ryung's father. They had worked together in the same unit. 2 years ago, Cha Ryung wanted to answer everyone who did this to his father. The protagonist has only 2 goals: to pay for his father's medical expenses and to keep living until a cure is invented. But Zeke also has questions. Why he is Yu Seong's son, he is not registered in the documents. Even then, when my father was hospitalized, he grew up alone. Zeke says that there is a destroyer dragon named Duganahi, and it is his poison that Yu Seong is poisoned by. Dragons were the only ones who could break down walls and let other monsters in. They were stronger, smarter, and more cunning than any race of this world. Instead of destruction, they chose the path of waiting so they could then play deities with humans to honor them. They thought humans couldn't handle the dungeons. Only their plans were decided to ruin by Father, who destroyed the first dragon, showing that humans still claimed the land. Zeke told the big secret. Duganahi is the dragon leader that Yu Seong was chasing before his illness took him down. He's very afraid of him. To make the medicine, you need to catch this dragon. Only he knows the way to heal his father. Zeke himself can't manage. Very strong magic. Dragons are very cunning. They can disguise themselves as humans and live in this image for decades. If you catch one, the others will immediately hide. Zeke offers Cha Ryung to join a secret dragon-catching squad. Only the best hunters are there, but Cha Ryung himself needs to upgrade. Cha Ryung began to hesitate. He was shocked by such sudden and surprising news. His father could be cured of this disease. Perhaps it was worry or fear that he wouldn't be able to take part in the revenge. Though that wasn't the final answer either. He felt joy. At this time, a nurse came in and asked how his arm was doing because they had reassembled it. Cha Ryung was very lucky. He was treated by the best healer in this hospital. He reassembled his arm. It will be sore at first, but then his body will get used to it. Belkacem was discharged the same day they were both brought in. He has a high recovery rate, so he didn't need serious help. The nurse said he could be discharged. Only problem is the hospital is full of reporters because of one video. This video has racked up over 8 million views. The Ultra Manhwa Recap channel isn't even close to those numbers yet. Please help with that by liking and subscribing. In addition, the nurse handed him a bag. She said that if he didn't want to be seen, he'd better use this. There was a rope in the bag. How would he be able to climb down the window, given that his right arm had not yet recovered? He did come down and asked if there was nothing else but rope, but it was better than nothing. So Ram bought him some clothes and shoes and a smartphone. He was very surprised. She also said that the best atelier in this city had decided to tailor a custom armor for him. Other than that, the best armor for Cha Ryung is the leather armor, and the video itself was only taken from the middle. There's no full picture, and how they defeated Rex isn't there either. Seo Ram warns that there will be no quiet life for Cha Ryung now, and not only because of the reporters, but also because of the other students as well as the monsters. Belkacem didn't say anything about Cha Ryung without his consent. In the meantime, they had already reached the best atelier, and Seo Ram told them that the exam could be taken not alone, but in a group. Naturally, their parents know each other, so they agree in advance which team their offspring will be on. If Cha Ryung reveals that he's the guy, he'll become everyone's biggest rival and target. But even that doesn't scare him. He's bound to break through and get into school because it's the majority who get in, not everyone. Cha Ryung went to change, and Seo Ram finds out that the president has a meeting canceled today. Seo Ram doesn't care about time compensation. She needs armor. Exams are in 2 months. She is called Han Ga-yoon. She is 18 years old and is the student council president of Heroes High School. She had some problems, and the president of this firm is her uncle, so the meeting was canceled. Except Chae Ryong had already returned and said to stop scheming here and get the hell away from them, to which she was shocked. Their conversation revealed an unpleasant peculiarity. Han Ga-yoon has a knack for striking without physical impact. Cha Ryung, on the other hand, is disappointed in her. He didn't think a high school trash girl who can't do anything would be here. Except that she responded rudely, stabbing her multiple stab wounds without touching Chae Ryong. Cha Ryong decided to respond in kind. He tried what he had just learned, the same technique. Their proceedings were interrupted by Han Sung-woo. He is 42 years old, a former hunter and now an armor designer. He apologized for his niece's antics. She was the one who canceled Seo Ram's meeting, for her own reason. Seo Rem tells Cha Ryong that he just defeated the student council president, the strongest of all the students at Hero School. Depending on the rank in the school, students are allowed to advance to dungeons. If the rank is Source Stone, then they are only allowed to go with an experienced hunter no lower than Gold rank. Within the school, they form groups of students and exceptional grades that are recognized by the unofficial Sweepok Mand. They qualify to participate in raids above 5 danger stars. Now, Han Ga-yoon defeated the current student council president and was able to get elected a year early to the position. But even leaving them, Han Ga-yoon, Cha Ryung offered her a bet in which if he wins, he becomes the student council president next year. She accepts the bet. The bout will take place in the challenge room with the technique of taking steps away for each missed punch. The loser retreats a step until they are over the edge of the ring. Seo Rem tried to talk Cha Ryung out of it, but he says he'll beat her, or maybe he wants to lose to her on purpose. Han Sung-woo, already apologizing for another thing. He, as the uncle of the student council president, should watch her better. She's overreacting to every word. Han Ga-yoon will also be using one hand during the fight to keep things fair. The duel begins and she decides to kick him, only for Cha Ryung to dodge. Seo Ram and Han Sung-woo are both surprised. Cha Ryung knows exactly what he's doing. It's the look of an experienced hunter. He has a green rank and 31st ranker. In these 3 days, Han Ga-yoon has reviewed the video of Cha Ryung many times and offers him a draw because he is not able to fight as actively right now. Except that the protagonist doesn't want to end with a draw. He wants to bring the fight to an end because the post of student council president is at stake. This only made Han Ga-yoon angry. She said that if he wants to finish, let him finish, but he's not brave. He's stupid. Chae Ryong wanted to get to know Ga-yoon better in these 30 strokes. This was picked up by Han Sung-woo, who saw a direct copy of her movements in him. His goal was not to win, but to copy Ga-yoon's technique. He only needed to see her attack him, and he could already replicate her style. Chae Ryong had been smuggling since he was a little boy, and he had one rule: don't make unfavorable deals, no matter what they were. Han Ga-yoon promised that Cha Ryung would only dodge from now on until she lost to the end. The protagonist realized what kind of technique Han Ga-yoon was using and decided to respond in kind. This technique is called Flash. With each blow, he was getting better and better. Even though his strength was running out, he decided to go all the way. But in the end, they are both now considered losers, but Cha Ryung proved to her that she's not that strong. But what's really at fault here is Han Sung-woo, who didn't stop the fight. He suggests that it should be held again when Cha Ryong has fully recovered. Well, Han Ga-yoon says she won't leave the main character alone if he fails the entrance exam or loses to someone else before meeting her. She came out of the testing room and told Se-rom that she was a real judge of character. After these events, Cha Ryong and Se-rom discuss what happened in the office. Cha Ryong was almost taken to the hospital because of his antics. As an apology, Han Sung-woo ordered the guys a lot of food, pizza, and other delicious food. During lunch, it was revealed that Cha Ryong hadn't eaten in a long time. Hunters have a calorie consumption 5 times higher than a normal person. Han Sung-woo said at lunch that his workshop makes not only leather armor, but also Spider Bandit threads has a 4-star danger rating. All the data on Cha Ryong has already been collected. The last thing left is impregnating the armor with oil to increase the strength of the material. Right now, there isn't the right oil for impregnation, but Cha Ryong doesn't care about that. He wants to wear the armor that Han Sung-woo made. He is very grateful and will try to produce a good piece of equipment. Besides, this conversation is about the heavenly wasps. There is one material, black wax, which Cha Ryong just took as his reward when he brought out the royal jelly. Han Sung-woo is very surprised where he got such material, so he says he saw it at Seo-ram's place, just scattered around her room like that. At the hospital, meanwhile, Im Jae-hwan, whom Cha Ryong wanted to meet, came to check on Yu-sung and they talked on the phone. Im Jae-hwan wanted to meet Zeke 11 years ago. The legendary cleanup squad, led by Yu-sung, was disbanded. Im Jae-hwan is a former hunter who was in this squad. He was the 5th-ranked South Korean fighter in the Venus squad. In the evening, Han Seong-woo and Cha Ryong were discussing the technique he taught his niece. Han Seong-woo didn't mind at all that Cha Ryong had adopted it. Se-rom came back. She handed Cha Ryong's phone over. Someone had called him, and he now needed to come over as soon as possible. They advanced to the shelter, and the caller was Zeke Eserm, who had a fight with Im Jae-hwan, and they had a scuffle. He hadn't planned on summoning him here, then healing him and dragging his body on his back. Zeke wasn't willing to do that. Kang Gun-ho helped drag Im Jae-hwan, except he was surprised that Cha Ryong was able to leave a scratch on Zeke's cheek. Cha Ryong went to check on him. He was sitting at the entrance of the dungeon, resting after the battle. Im Jae-hwan's body and self-confidence, judgment, and skills are just shattered. He couldn't defeat Zeke. Now Im Jae-hwan has a condition. He'll teach what he knows himself in a month. If Cha Ryong doesn't internalize it, Zeke won't take it. Im Jae-hwan was left with almost no strength, and Cha Ryong helped him. Im Jae-hwan will teach him magic because it's his weak point. In the past, Im Jae-hwan was in the cleanup squad along with Yu-sung. He was 26 years old at the time, and they were considering how to catch Duganagi, who was already giving them a hard time. Cha Ryong and Im Jae-hwan already knew each other at that time, 11 years ago. After sending Cha Ryong to bed, Yu-sung had already then asked Im Jae-hwan to take care of Cha Ryong. The events of the past, even now, do not leave Im Jae-hwan alone. He was out for 3 hours. The main character started working for Im Jae-hwan as early as 14 years old when his father was hospitalized. Im Jae-hwan confessed that he hates all people, especially those who turned their backs on his father and gave him a hurtful nickname. If the dragons were already a problem at that point, now even the best hunters wouldn't be able to handle even one. In addition, Im Jae-hwan gives Cha Ryong his bank account number. He's been saving everything Cha Ryong earned there. He wanted him to start his own business instead of being a hunter. He asked him to call him when the cast comes off to teach him magic, but in the meantime, let him prepare to enroll, even though Im Jae-hwan doesn't see the point. Somewhere around old Yonsan, that girl who released monsters on people came there. She is met by another bad guy who rebukes her for rarely showing up to meetings and acting out whenever she wants, except she's hitting him with words. This guy is alone now, without his guardian. The guy threatened her that he could do it all himself, and if she repeated it even once, she would be in a lot of pain. It only made her laugh, a little puppy barking at a professional. He doesn't think he'll be punished for fighting with her because she's overstepping her bounds. I mean, she knows that Puppy needs to be punished because he talks bad about her. But their duel is interrupted by a man in a suit. He calls them by their names. The girl's name is Heron, and the guy's name is Gwesok. The man reminds them that they have common goals, and there's no point in them figuring things out. Because of Charyung and Tir Belkason, they didn't succeed in their plan. The main problem is that Haran and the others have to hide their identities, or they'll be labeled particularly dangerous. Their dialogue was interrupted by Yol, who was working. He had brought a hunter with him. His name is Ogang Hayuk. He is 23 years old, has a 97th ranking, and is the tank of Team J and Y. He took most of his prey and hid them in the Shadow, which is the secret hunter's hideout within the dungeons. Ogang Hyuk tells them that there will be a party at their sanctuary. All his team members, leader, and civilians will be there. They drink, they gather. It's mostly the rich and friends, drinking potions with relaxing effects. Yol promised to let him go if he told everything, and he was let go. To the other world. Eventually, they decide to start hunting that squad of hunters. They will be unable to defend themselves. Once the bodies of these hunters are discovered, they will wake up this world. Soon it will be time for the scar. A month later, Charyung had his cast removed. He would need some time to recover his arm. His armor would be finished soon. Se-Rom was able to rent a huge training center for 2 days. For recovery, in addition to that, there was still riding in the taxi. Tir Belkason, who really scared Se-Rom. The training center itself has everything from a gym to a lounge area. Se-Rom is embarrassed by her classmate, Tir Belkason. She is very much afraid of him. Only Che-Ryong told her about him. He's not so scary and is actually very kind. When Tir Belkason and Charyung were riding in a cab, he asked who was helping him, and after finding out it was Se-Rom, he's always wanted to meet her. He thinks she's cool. Charyung wants to train with them because they're strong. Except for that, they're outcasts and there won't be a better chance for them. They changed their clothes and decided to start for the dueling room, but they were called out there. It was Anisha Ezerm. She knew that Zeke allowed them to visit the training center while he wasn't here. Anisha tried to hurt Se-Rom. She doesn't like having a lot of people and advised her to leave tomorrow morning. Cha-Ryong, on the other hand, would like to exercise with more people, but the sophomore advised him to go home. The gym is busy. Except the sophomore decided to hit him. His name is Yang San-Young. He didn't want to hit him for real. The main character played along. He pretended that Yang San-Young had hit him, and very hard at that. Except one feinted blow was enough to know how to fight him. He decided to defend himself. There are cameras in the training room that record everything. Jang San-Young tried to apologize. He only wanted to scare him, but he didn't want to hit him. Charyung said he'd defend himself, and he wanted to hit him too, except Jang San-Young dodged. The protagonist didn't like it. Even Anisha said to make amends. Except he attacked. They got into a fight, and Jang Sang-Yong decided to attack again. It didn't work. Flash and Flow went into action, but it was over quickly. Charyung tripped him up to calm Jang Sang-Young down, and that was the end of it. The main character tells Se-Rom that he's not going to put up with everything like Se-Rom does, and from now on, she won't either. Jang Sang-Young decides to attack while Charyong was talking to Se-Rom, but at that moment, Anisha Ezerm used her magic and grabbed Jang Sang-Yeon. Now she feels second-rate after that too. But with the protagonist under the influence of such magic, some changes began to take place. Anisha asked Charyung how much she promised him she'd pay more than Se-Rom. Only Charyong had told her what he thought of her. She only knows how to plot behind her back. Those words hurt her. She let Jang San-Young go, and it looks like this week's exchange will have to be cancelled. They decided to leave because Charyung, with such strength, could easily deal with Anisha. Se-Rom, on the other hand, wants Anisha to not find out anything about Charyung, or else she'll keep poaching him for her. But Charyung realizes that he needs to put more effort into magic since his abilities activate with that kind of magic. While Jang Sang-Young lay unconscious, Charyong analyzed their fight with him and figured out some mistakes. He explained these mistakes to him, and Jang Sang-Young himself admitted that he had gotten into trouble himself. Se-Rom revealed that Tir Belkason and Charyung have bad magic stats. They need to pump them up. Other than that, their level of magic they have to put into a buff that will help them, and with that help decided to... Jang Sang-Young, he is the best half buff on his course and stands out amongst others for that. They started off simple. The Firelight spell, which is a training spell, Cha Ryong mastered in 10 minutes. Se Rom was being trained at this time by Tir Belkason, who has a magic skill much lower than Cha Ryong. While they were learning this, Cha Ryong told Jang Sanyong about his feelings. He had figured out how to use magic, to which Jang Sanyong showed him that there were magic threads in the body and they had to be used correctly. That was what he wanted to show. Jang Sanyong apologized for his behavior. He only wanted to impress the younger ones. Cha Ryong, on the other hand, is grateful to him, and he will wait for a better lesson from Jang Sang-yeon during these days. The training went well. After 3 days, everyone was able to tighten up their skills except Se Rom. She already had a high magic skill. Cha Ryong said that he probably won't be able to see them before the exams start, and wishes them good luck. He's most worried about Se Rom, who, if she doesn't pass her exams, will stay in her second year. He embarrassed her with that. The main character thanked Jang Sanyong for showing him how to use the buff. He will use it in his revenge. At home, Im Jae-hwan pleased Cha Ryong. He called the school and said that he wouldn't be able to attend classes for a month. Their training starts from today, so Cha Ryong was advised to pack her things. He also brought a weapon case that Im Jae-hwan was able to open. There was a pole lying there. There was still a note attached to the weapon. The handle had been improved, anti-slip material had been put in, and the weapon itself had been lightened by half. Im Jae-hwan suggested that he test the weapon immediately, but only Cha Ryong didn't expect such an opponent right away. It was a carnivorous ent. His danger level is 4 stars. Im Jae-hwan, on the other hand, said that he will watch his fight and help him if anything happens. Cha Ryong made his needle strike, but something went wrong. The pole was more powerful. The pole appeared to be charged with magic, and now requires magical energy to use it. Carnivorous Ent has super regeneration and can't be defeated so easily. Cha Ryong hit him with a flow technique, and noticed that something was wrong with the weapon. The pole appeared to be a hammer, and then disappeared again. This is called user position. Depending on the attack, it takes the form of a weapon to attack. The main character had trouble dealing with Ant. Im Jae-hwan helped him. He put up a protective barrier and started explaining to him. To destroy a carnivorous ent, you need to burn it to the ground, because even from a small twig it can regenerate. All of this is learned through magic, and magic is very uncomplicated. It's connected to the dungeons. Dungeons work by other laws of physics. They can take up little space and yet be huge inside. Im Jae-hwan brought Cha Ryong to another dungeon. Old Sindorim, danger level A. He tells him that for 2 weeks Im Jae-hwan will train him here during the day and protect him at night, and then he'll leave. If Cha Ryong lasts 2 weeks alone here after Im Jae-hwan leaves, then he will definitely pass the exam. November, the day of the internal exam, Seorem is furious. Cha Ryong hasn't returned her calls in a month. He apologized to her. Seoram asked where he was, to which he replied that he was training. He'll wash up now and come over. She didn't believe he was just dressed up like that, so she decided to touch him and got scared. Except Cha Ryong reacted and prepared to attack. He had gotten used to it like this during all this time in the dungeon. This was the first time Se Rom felt an ominous aura from the man, however. It wasn't the true reason for her consternation. That energy she sensed from Cha Ryong was very familiar to her. That aura was very similar to that of monsters. Se Rom asked if Cha Ryong was worried, but he was calm, unlike her. I guess we're done. I haven't slept for 4 days to make this retelling, and please like and subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos and write a comment because I'm very tired and I tried just for you. Thank you.